Thursday, September 18th, 2014. I'm Adam Clark, and this is the Daily Ruckus. As the mainstream media magically mesmerizes the masses with news of their favorite NFL stars behaving badly, there is one significant headline that came and went so fast it bears a second look. Yet again, it's up to the alternative media outlets and independent citizen journalists to report on the news that really matters. The F.B.I. announced Monday that the federal government's next-generation identification system, a biometric database that relies largely on facial recognition technology, is now fully operational. Quote, "This effort is a significant step forward for the criminal justice community in utilizing biometrics as an investigative enabler," end quote, the F.B.I. said in a statement. "It's to monitor criminal histories of those, quote-unquote, in positions of trust," the F.B.I. said. The NGIS's interstate photo system gives law enforcement agencies, from police to probation and parole officers, the ability to access facial technology imagery contained in criminal databases. But privacy and civil rights groups are alarmed. FBI Director James Comey told Capitol Hill lawmakers earlier this year that agents weren't trying to create a national database of Orwellian proportions. Rather, they're only trying to, quote, find bad guys by matching pictures to mugshots. Strangely, this announcement comes just days before the debut of the brand new CNN film Whitey, United States of America versus James J. Bulger, directed by Joe Berlinger. The story of Whitey Bulger, of course, is practically legendary, carries with it much speculation and an interesting tale of police and government corruption and the FBI's absolute failure, or the appearance thereof, to apprehend the well-known and suspected FBI informant who seemed to walk around in life with a get-out-of-jail-free card. That is, until in the mid-90s, when he caught wind that the feds were finally going to come after him, and he went into hiding for 16 years, where he occupied the number 2 spot as the most wanted man in America, right behind Osama bin Laden. The New England media exposed criminal actions by federal, state, and local law enforcement officials tied to Bulger. For the FBI especially, this caused great embarrassment. Even more fascinating than the documentary itself was the discussion afterwards when a Boston College Law School audience participated in a Q&A session hosted by John King of Chief Political Report CNN. The distinguished panel of guests included defense attorney J.W. Carney, prosecutor Brian Kelly, director of the film Joe Berlinger, and David Biore, reporter WBUR. Let's have a little listen, shall we?
Mr. Kelly, as the representative of the government here, why was he allowed to operate for so long? And do you believe with all your heart that the corruption internally was Mr. Conley and Mr. Morris and not higher up? It stopped there? Or do you still have questions?
Why was he allowed to run amok for so many years? Because of corruption. The FBI is one of the most powerful law enforcement agencies we have, and if they're not monitoring their informants properly, which they did not in this case, this is what happens. And certainly there's a lot of people to blame for not supervising this situation more closely.
16 years out on the road. And what do we know? That the FBI has been either indifferent, incompetent, and occasionally intentionally incompetent in its search or non-search for James Bulger. The sighting in London in 2002, it never happened. By 2006, even the FBI didn't believe it. So suddenly we have James Bulger. He's here. We've heard that he has tapes. What could he say about all those FBI agents and the cops, the Boston cops, and the Stadies that he had corrupted? What would he say?
That's how the Department of Justice wanted to cover up all the corruption, not just among the FBI, the DEA, the state police, customs, Main Justice in Washington, which was absolutely aware of this corruption going on. And so if the jury concludes, wow, all of these government witnesses who are saying that Bulger was an informant, they're not only lying, they're intentionally lying to cover up the corruption. As Jim told me more than once, he said, I'm just a person in a small neighborhood in Boston, South Boston. It's a tiny neighborhood in Boston. And Jim would say, I'm one man who was very, very successful being a criminal in that neighborhood. But what people should really be frightened of is that if I can get 35 FBI agents on my annual payroll, and I can deal with the chief of the organized strike force, and he will agree that I won't be prosecuted federally and follow through on that. If he could do that in South Boston, imagine this being replicated around the country because criminals talk to each other.
Had an opportunity to show how much government corruption there was around this time. Even the government themselves talked about the FBI running amok. But had Mr. Bulger so much taken the stand, corruption, regardless of whether or not the immunity defense could have been presented, story that I'm sort of disappointed that didn't get told loudly and clearly. And I think had Mr. Bulger taken government corruption, Mr. Carney would have done a superb job of demonstrating just the amount of government corruption. The FBI running amok. And there was so much government corruption.
Well, that was fun, wasn't it? And what's more, you could always rewind the audio and play the Whitey Bulger corruption drinking game. Drink every time someone on the panel says the word corruption. Have fun. I'm Adam Clark, and this has been the Daily Ruckus. Please visit ruckusroomblog.blogspot.com for more. This has been a presentation of the Ruckus Room Reality Radio.